lipstick on in the glass of her boudoir. There ain't nothing wrong with loving who you are, she said, 'cause we all made perfect, babe. So hold your head up, girl, and don't you know you'll go far. Listen to me when I say I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby, yeah, I was born this way. Conversations, my name is Seth Womble. Today we're going to be talking to Maddie Houck, aka Maddie Poppins, if you guys want to check him out on Instagram, but you should stay with us right now. I'm going to go step into my studio. You got a quick sneak peek of what's behind the camera here usually, and my fabulous beard, of course. So anyway, I'm just going to go step around, flip the camera around, and we're going to invite Maddie Houck in to have a conversation. All right. That was my dog Tyson there. Hey, Maddie, I see you. We're bringing him in. Nice to see everybody. Thanks for joining us again today. We've got some great things to talk about, some hard things to talk about, and a really wonderful person to do it with. Maddie, great to see you.
Hello?
It's supposed to be a coconut, I thought.
Oh, it's a CAnversation.
Oh.
Right?
Sorry, that was a Hawaii reference, you know, sorry.
I'm here. What's up?
Oh, man. You know, I kind of wanted to start with my mask on, too.
Nice.
Shout to Bo Stanton there for this one.
Oh, my God.
It kind of freaks people out because the lips move when I talk.
That is gorgeous and horrifying.
Hey, look, if we're going to have to wear these things, we might as well have a little bit of fun with it, right?
No, I know. I want it to be like the mayor because he's like,
shout out to our mayor.
Here I am.
I think that our mayor has done a great job. Thank you, Mayor Kawaii.
You think I'd have a reveal under the mask, but you do. I didn't expect the beard.
I didn't want to derail the conversation, you know, too much, but there it is. My wife hasn't seen it yet. She's probably gonna like not even speak to me when she gets home.
Oh my gosh. Is it a certain day of the week that you do it? It's Wacky Wednesdays?
Well, there was a tradition. Back in the day, I would shave a weird beard pretty much most Wednesdays. Yeah.
Crazy. Hi.
Great to see you. And you've got a fabulous mustache.
Thanks. I thought I wouldn't have it, but it's subtle, but she's there.
Everybody raise your hand if you want Maddie to keep his mustache.
It's subtle.
Okay. Well, with that said, try to keep an eye on the camera there as much as you can instead of all the wonderful comments and hearts and all the things that are going to come in. They can be very distracting.
That's good advice. It's my first Insta Live.
Oh my gosh. We got to be your first.
It's true.
Love it. And love having you. Thank you for joining us. Let's just go ahead and get right into it. Really want to introduce you to the CAN followers, but to the rest of the world, to the people that are following you, that know you. Let's get a little bit of background on you as far as you want to go. And I do have some notes that we had talked about earlier, and we'll just take it away.
Sure. As far back as I want to go. 1984, June 15th was my birthday, which we celebrated the other day. Thank you for helping us celebrate. And someone said thanks to my mom, and I said thanks for the emergency C-section on the checkup when I was breech. But, you know, just wanting to appear on my own terms and time. I grew up in Colorado, born and raised. I have a Colorado tattoo. I moved to Kawaii in 2007 with my now husband, Kevin Houck, and we've been on the island, what is that, over 13 years. And we've been having so much fun on this island, and in the more recent years have been like getting more to work on what we can do to help the community. So it's been a really cool journey. When we moved here, I didn't really have a plan for what we would do with our lives. And so we had like a temporary plan of like 6 months to see what might happen after. We'd never been to the islands at all. And then after 6 months, we had some roommates and our lease was up, and we were like, well, we should probably stay. And so we stayed. And then after 1 year, we stayed. And that became a theme until we met all of our amazing friends that have now become our family and community. And we've been here ever since. So we've had the incredible journey. Kevin was a tour guide for a very long time at Outfitters Kawaii, and I worked restaurant jobs in many places, most notably Casablanca in sunny Poipu. I still work for the family, Liz and Dan and Eric and Mia guys at La Spezia restaurant. That's been open 7 years now and just reopened.
Oh my God.
I'd like to make that clear. There's rumors that they closed down, and they did, but they didn't like close down permanently. So La Spezia is open. I'm there on Tuesdays.
Go see Maddie on Tuesdays. Go in there all the time,
Um,
but go see Maddie if you want to on Tuesdays.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really happy to still work for the family, but my main role for work now is through the YWCA of Kauai. And I am a prevention educator, teaching kids of all ages and teenagers on body safety and how to get help if they need it. So we have a really cool position that does a lot of good for the community, and I'm really honored to be doing that work.
And this was a while back, but I recall, weren't you also teaching adults, particularly in certain departments for the county?
Yeah, if you're talking more LGBTQ work,
Yep.
yeah, so I've been at the YWCA now for over 6 years. I got hired to be an LGBTQ services specialist, so a different position than I am now. The Y received a grant to help bridge the gap between LGBTQ community and providers. So the YWCA is often known to be a women's organization. Our main focuses on Kauai are domestic violence and sexual assault, which disproportionately affect women. But men are victims and survivors of domestic and sexual violence, and LGBTQ people are at higher rates will experience domestic and sexual violence. So really our goal is to let the LGBTQ community know that services are for them. We have like a 24/7 hotline. We have a shelter if someone's in danger and needs somewhere to go. We have therapeutic clinical services for someone to help process and move forward in their lives after a traumatic event in their life, a tragedy. And we have prevention education. So my department is going into the schools to help teach kids to learn about their bodies so we can hopefully prevent sexual violence. But yeah, the goal is really to outreach to the LGBTQ community. We still have an ongoing LGBTQ support group for adults every Wednesday evening. It's on Zoom right now. It might re-meet in person one day.
Cool.
And then the other part of that role was to educate providers to be more competent in serving LGBTQ populations. So that's working with the police department, prosecuting attorney's office, and any provider on the island. So we've worked with a lot of the nonprofits, youth serving organizations, Department of Education, principals, educators, vice principals, athletic directors. So I have some awesome relationships within the community now, and it's been super cool journey to be on.
You are a very valuable asset to bridge those very significant gaps that are fortunately being brought to light again more and more and more as the world changes. So grateful for you and the things that you do. I hope you get a chance to kind of maybe listen back on this and just listen to the things that you just said that you do for our community, because normally I like to try to repeat back and recap what somebody has just said that they are talking about, and what a script, man. What an incredible life you are living, not only for our community, but I know that comes from a place of taking care of yourself and having a good support system within your smaller friend community and the people that you work with and your husband and all of that. So that's why you are definitely an honored guest here today with the Spirit of CAN, and because you are a spirit of resilience, and that giving a lot like you do takes some self-maintenance too, and that's a big part of the spirit of CAN. It's not a motivational brand. I'm not a motivational speaker. In fact, I have a weird beard to try to deter people from talking to me generally too much, but I like to listen. But this is about helping people bridge that gap between the understanding that things are hard and you can still make steps towards seemingly impossible goals, but it's just a matter of planning and really trying to figure out what the best method is, and maybe you got to change course a few times along the way.
Yeah.
So great introduction, Maddie. I can't even repeat any of that.
All good. It's been weird because like it's been a journey in itself. So like starting the LGBTQ work and now I'm working more with youth has been kind of like a natural progression, but we found a way to like interweave them also. So I'm doing more lessons in schools and less LGBTQ work, but we still have the group. I still do trainings, just not as often. But you know, I take that LGBTQ work so passionately to heart that I make room for it and make sure that in the schools I'm trying to find the young questioning kids that are struggling and help support their GSA clubs, which used to be called a Gay Straight Alliance Club in often high schools. Now it's kind of like a Gender Sexuality Alliance Club. So we've just been trying to find avenues of how to continue to support our LGBTQ community, which we're doing through Pride.
You guys, it's not a matter of keeping up because there's all sorts of topics on the table here when it comes to these things like pronoun use and stuff like that. And it's not about having standards. It's about growing and shifting and learning and figuring this all out together. It's not about this is this person's box and this is this person's box and these are all the shelves that we're on. It's a big mixed up, very colorful world, and let's just all learn it all together and figure it out. It's not that hard. All right.
Yeah, no, kindness. Like it all starts with kindness and, you know, just being approachable and treating people with respect and dignity. So yeah, for sure.
Big deal. So yeah, aside from all the other things that we can mix up in our lives with different beliefs, those core values are that we can love each other with kindness and respect. You don't have to like everybody. That's different.
For sure.
So these conversations have usually, oh wait, let me stop really quick, and I forgot to brief you on this earlier, but we like to give away a few things, not to promote so much clothing or product or anything like that, but more the message behind it. And when people stop me and ask me about it and I get to speak to them about what CAN means, it doesn't mean I'm Canadian or supporting the hemp industry or anything like that. It's a different kind of a message. And then once I tell them, they usually want something. So I'm always giving my stuff away. So we want to give some stuff away today. So we're going to ask you guys something later on in the show that are listening. And if you can put a quick comment in there, the first person to answer the question in the comments, we'll get some free gear. We'll send it to you.
Love it. Thanks for my hat. I love my hat.
There you go. Perfect example. We love you having the hat. Thank you. So we usually kick these things off not only with the intro, but talking about challenges. And as difficult the challenges as you're willing to address, this is a real conversation and it is live. So we want to talk about things that are hard because those conversations don't get had enough. And then we're going to lead into things that you've applied in your own life through your growth to change the way that you've looked at something, you know, change your perspective or things like that. And then later on, we'll segue into some goals that you have. So we were kind of framing this around the pandemic, but I think that we can back up the scope a little bit and talk about the last couple of years, if you like, or, you know, segue into 2020, which has definitely been a very challenging year.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm down. Are you asking me to start 2 years ago? Or
Yeah. Okay. So in the notes that I've got here, let's start with Pride. So that's a really interesting thing that you set up an inaugural Pride parade for Kawaii. This is a big deal for the community here, to let that community know that there's a whole community behind them and in a really big, awesome, fun way. So we can start with that, and then I guess that would lead perfectly into what's going on for you now.
Oh, for sure. Yes, absolutely. Um, 2019 on June 22nd, there was Kauai's first inaugural Kawaii Pride Parade. So it was the first time that a major street was closed on Kauai to make it all Pride specific related. Obviously, there's Lights on Rice and Waimea Town, Christmas Parade, and all the other great things, and King K Parade. This was the first Pride Parade. There have been many Pride events in the past on Kauai. I've attended several of them. Um, we brought some people together that wanted to, make a parade that shut down the streets and had it in the heart of Lihue and do it up. So we formed a committee and just started to reach out to people in the community and to see how we could even achieve that starting from scratch, having never done it before. Um, and I can't believe the direction that it went in and the turnout that we got. And one of my main goals in putting work towards this effort was just for young queer people to see themselves reflected in their community. Of my limited time on the island in 13 years, I remember what it was like being a young queer person in Colorado. I think it's even more rural here. And I know that, we have a pretty high suicide rate for teens, not only on the island, but specifically our LGBTQ population. I know a lot of queer people that turn into adults on Kauai will often leave. They'll go to like Oahu or Vegas or other cities elsewhere to find more of their community. And the whole goal here was whether you were LGBTQ questioning or not, we wanted to create a space publicly and loud and visibly where young people could see themselves reflected in their own community and know that they belong here, that this is their home and they should be proud to be a community member here, and that there are families there that will come out and support them, whether it's their own family or not with them. There's like a free mom hugs group. There were so many, Kapuna and young Keiki, like just families of all different backgrounds and ages, and like units, like Ohana units combined, and people's chosen families, and I can't believe the turnout that it was, That was the goal and how we pitched it to the county and the mayor's office, and we got approval. I think it's the first year in 2019 that we had a mayor proclamation for Pride for June 2019, and the Kauai County Council gave a proclamation or an announcement as well. And it was pretty incredible. There's a YouTuber named Mark Miller. He made a mini documentary called Colors of Kauai.
Huh.
You can find it on YouTube. It just came out on April 1st.
Oh, cool.
It's a 12-minute video that he just featured a couple people that were big parts of the event, like Kipukai Kuali'i, who is a Kauai council member, Kauai's first out, representative for Kauai Island, maybe the state. And he was Grand Marshal, so he was featured. Bianca Tasaka, she is a very prominent community member here on Kauai, and she was featured in the film. It's a really touching video that he made.
Amazing. Tell us the name of it again. What was
Colors of Kauai.
Okay. And that's on YouTube
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Okay.
We're actually going to live stream it on Monday on YouTube, and we're going to put all the info up on the Kauai Pride Parade information. So
Great.
Instagram and Facebook, Kauai Pride Parade, and the website is kauaiprideparade.com.
Okay.
So we're going to stream that video on Monday because Monday will be the 1-year anniversary of our inaugural event last year.
And is that the date that you had set for this year as well?
No, but close. So June 22nd was last year. This year it was scheduled for June 27th, which is next Saturday. So next Monday, the 1-year anniversary, will actually kick off Pride Week for Kauai. And because we can't have a live public event right now, thanks coronavirus, we have turned to Pride Inside. And we have all these digital events coming to you next week. So we're about to release all of that through flyers, through Instagram and Facebook.
Cool.
And, so there's something every day next week. That's Monday.
Guys, check that out. That'll be good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so then that does bring us into sort of some of the things that you've had to face that would have been tough coming into not only this year, well, not so much coming into this year, but literally coming into the 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 pandemic.
Yeah, I can't believe it's June. Like I feel like it's still March that we're trapped in like a, on a turntable. Or Groundhog Day. I feel like it was just the beginning of all of this and still very confused on what's going on. But yeah, I mean, as far as like the beginning of March, Pride was full force ready to go for the second annual for next weekend. And that was the plan. And it was about mid-March that we already had a couple cases here, and there were some small changes, like the mayor was canceling a lot of public events or gatherings over 100, and then it, sped up really quick to lockdown, curfew, all the things. And then like working remotely. So that was like a pretty quick transition. One of the first things I did was call the county to be like, we have an event in June. I can't really imagine that that's still happening.
Yeah.
And they said, yeah, that's probably a no-go. So I just asked if we could potentially tentatively postpone until October and like pencil us in. Like, obviously, you can't give me a confirmation right now. And then I looked at when Oahu has their Pride, and some of the other islands do Pride in October. So Honolulu's doing their Pride the weekend of October 11th, if it's to go. And so we were looking, I'm sorry, the 18th. Theirs is the 18th weekend. So I just was looking for the weekend after. So we're looking at Saturday, October 24th, if it's possible, which is a very exciting day because it's the culmination of Nirvana Fest.
It could be a really exciting time for Kawaii if we can keep ourselves together. We just received some bad news here on island today, kind of midday, that there was the first confirmed case of corona back on island after weeks of not having it. So that's now on the county pages
Almost
of
a
this
month.
afternoon. So yeah, almost a month of no cases. We've got a confirmed case here today, and so we got to figure this out, and we got to keep together, and keep working on these events. So
Yeah.
I'm so bummed that event did fall through for you for the summer, because it's such a fun summer thing to do, and it's amazing. But to be honest, I guess if I got to look at the flip side of the coin, it works out really well for the Nirvana Fest and possibly for this music festival, all culminating on that same 24th would be incredible. So we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yes, for sure. Like, fingers crossed and fans ready. Yeah, it's nuts. I really hope that it's just weird not knowing like so far ahead, like what's possible. Like, is this possible? Is it not? And I think we just keep working towards it and doing our best, and then we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And so, in the meantime, because maybe not in Honolulu, but many places around the U.S. and the globe, Pride is in June, and historically that's because of the Stonewall riots. In June of 1969. So it was pretty magical that not only was 2019 the inaugural event, but it was the 50th anniversary of those riots, which is the history of Pride. Like, it's those riots that got people fired up that led to a march the following year in June, which this year would be the 50th anniversary of the first march in New York City. So because we can't have a parade right now, that's why we're working on all these Pride Inside events. So if we, you know, regardless of what happens in October, we're still wanting to bring something to the community right now, because it is June and we want to recognize Pride and Pride Month and give the community what they deserve. So just wanted to keep spirits up and hope alive, because, we call it Pride Inside, but also, like, I guess Pride does start inside, so maybe we can't all be together, and maybe some people are safer than others. Maybe there's a young queer person in a home, in a family that doesn't support them, but maybe we can provide them an outlet. Maybe we can show them that they matter and they can see themselves reflected this year, even if not on the historic county lawn or down Rice Street.
Yeah, wonderful. Those are great things that bring us back to the intro where you were saying that working with YWCA, for example, you guys are recognizing those folks in the community and kind of almost in a way going to them rather than waiting for them to reach out or just putting up a hotline, because a lot of people have a different kind of pride that keeps them from asking for help, or they just don't know that there is help that I don't know. There's a lot of reasons why people don't ask for help, and that's something that I like to continually bring up in these conversations, is that it's important for community members that are better at taking care of themselves to find those people in the community that are particularly having a hard time and reach that hand out for them, because it's not always easy to make that call or to ask for help. That's an interesting side of pride that's not the same kind of pride that we're talking about here, but
Yeah. It's one of the biggest things we can do, though, I think, is ask for help. So, like, for me, in my mind, that means like pride related and like my job and sexual violence prevention related. Like, pride is about, young people being able to find someone that they can reach out to, that can support them, even if it's not their family member. Like, for me, to meet the first queer person that I met, when I came out, it was in high school. I was young. I was a teenager. I didn't like have queer people that I could talk to. So when I found a queer person I could talk to, for me, that was like so fulfilling, because even though we weren't of the same experience, we had something in common. Um, and when, and then like YWCA work, like sex assault, that's such a hard thing for people to experience. And everyone experiences it differently, and so many people feel alone. And our main message with all of our lessons, as hard and challenging as they may be, is to know that you're not alone, and that there are people that will help you. And it's okay to ask for help. We all need help sometimes. And if we don't ask for it, it may not come, like we need to, it's okay to ask for help,
ask for help. It's okay. And it is hard. You're not alone. Nobody's alone. You can be isolated and not be alone. There's people out there that you don't know that care about you. It's true. There's people out there all over the world that you've never even laid eyes on that definitely care about you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We did have a question that came in that was wondering something about whether there's any thoughts for smaller events that might be, I don't know how that would be organized. The question is, are there any smaller events happening for Pride? Not sure what the rules are about small gatherings. So I guess that's referring to this month specifically. Are there anything that you have listed on the page or anything like that that people can go look at for smaller things that might be happening around right now?
Great question. We had talked about that. We had talked about like, maybe a caravan or like just a small gathering. And the hardest part was that for all the entertainment and stuff on the lawn, you have to have a permit to set anything up, and we can't guarantee a permit. And then even if we had a gathering, we can't like ensure a small gathering if we announce it. And then the biggest concerns we had were like public safety.
Mm-hmm.
So these decisions were made like over a month ago.
Yeah.
When we were still kind of more on lockdown than we are right now. And so we decided that like we even thought like a drive-in movie, like that sounds so amazing. We just don't like have the capacity of all of those things. And so it really came back to the decision of like, how do we keep everyone safe while still promoting something that's important? And so it was really to just go online and digital, and that's not our ideal situation. But they're all going to be online, and we're going to be on different platforms. Like Monday, the live stream is going to be on YouTube. Tuesday, we're going to take over KKCR for a couple hours from 4 to 6, and people can call in and chat. Wednesday, we're going to do like more of a effort to like Kawaii wears Pride. So we're going to encourage people to dress up for Pride, whether that's rainbow or unicorn or whatever. And like share your outfit on our Instagram, and we can share them with each other so we can all have fun within this space within Instagram. Thursday is kind of a secret, but I think we're about to announce it. We have a pretty cool performance from some pretty amazing people that are putting something together. Friday, we're going to try to have like music online type of dance party. Saturday, we're bringing a live drag show virtually through Facebook Live.
Oh
And
my God.
Sunday we're
Funny
doing a
stuff going
film.
on.
Sunday we're doing I know Sunday we're doing a film screening, and we have a talk story session with the one and only Kumu Hina, who lives on Oahu, cultural practitioner and featured artist in the film. So we're really honored to have her present. We wanted Hina to be our keynote speaker, and she can't be here with us physically, so we're going to get a message from her for the community as well. So no physical events right now, but the goal is October to be together, all of us.
I like it.
That's the yeah.
Let's keep open and keep making those goals and keep working on these things because we can do that.
Yeah, and the hope is there. So like we can hope for October, and worst case scenario, we will just make it that much bigger in 2021, and we're still bringing something right now.
So I'm gonna shift gears here because we're starting to find out a little bit about you, and what I'm seeing in you in these things that you're telling us is that you have a huge heart for your your community, and then your extended community, and then the communities that are maybe not looked at the same way. So you're again that bridging kind of a person. You weren't you didn't did you just pop out like that, or did something happen for you to make you I don't know where I'm going with this, and I'm not trying to make it too awkward, but it's not working. How did you've been through some pretty hard stuff, man. So you started to talk a little while ago about taking care of yourself, that pride within yourself first. And the reason I want to bring it back to that is because that's kind of part of the system that the concept of CAN was set up on, is self-care and that need for help and community first, so that you can then get to those next steps in life and excel and grow and reach goals and shoot for the moon, whatever it is that you're looking for. You're doing a really good job of growing into the person that you are, and it took some really difficult things. Would you mind highlighting any of those?
Yeah, sure. We can be as awkward as you want to. Life is awkward. I'm very awkward. Yeah, man, if when I was 14, I was a student at Columbine High School. And, if people aren't familiar, Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado was one of the first major school shootings in the US. And the most unfortunate part of all of it is that's not such a shocker today to people. It's like almost like, when is the next one going to take place? And yeah, I was a freshman in high school when that happened, and my best friend was killed. And um, I don't know who I am spiritually 100%, and I couldn't tell you everything I do and don't believe, but there was something happening that day though, because I was always in the library during lunch, which is where most of the shooting happened and where it all ended. And for some reason, the day before the shooting, my friend, who was also a freshman, had an upperclassman boyfriend that invited me out to lunch. And I never go out to lunch. And so to leave campus as a freshman, I was like, yeah, I'll go to lunch. That sounds amazing. And then I forgot my lunch money, so they paid for me the very next day, the day of the shooting, minutes before everything happened. I was on my way to the library where my friend was. We always sat together and did our homework before school ended. Um, I realized I hadn't paid my friend back, so I started running around the halls looking for my friend, and I couldn't find her. So I ran out to the parking lot, and sure enough, she was getting in the car with her boyfriend. I said, like, thank you so much for yesterday. Really appreciate it. Have a great lunch. And I like turn around to go back inside, and they were like, you're already out here. Why don't you come with us again? By the time we returned to the school, it was pretty chaotic. There were already police cars and ambulances everywhere. And even in that moment, we had no idea what was happening. We thought we were about to be in trouble for being late back to class. And then, we were, turned into neighborhoods and listened to the radio to discover our school was being like shot up by seniors of our own school. And you know, it turned into chaos from there. Like that's like a whole nother conversation. Um, you know, my brother was a senior, he made it out. My best friend was a freshman with me, he didn't make it. Um, I don't know like what my purpose in life is, but I think a lot of Columbine survivors have, you know, been through a lot as young people and had to grow up pretty fast, faster than usual and expected. And a lot of us as alumni have turned to like serving organizations or positions or careers that like help other people. And I don't know if that's true for everyone, but there seems to be like a theme with a lot of people I've kept in touch with from Columbine. And you know, the first person I actually ever told that I was gay was on my off period um, that day before lunch, which was a whole nother tragedy for me because I was pretty involved in church and I was pretty scared of like what that meant to say something out loud versus to feel something. And so for me, it was like a double whammy of experience.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
but I had to put the coming out on hold. I actually like I asked that person not to share anything, and I had something more prevalent to handle. And it was a lot, you know. So school was canceled the rest of the year, kind of like coronavirus now. We tried to go back for a couple weeks at a different school. There was an investigation the whole summer. We went back the next year. I think if there's anything about resilience in my life and being a queer person, it was learning how to handle hardship. My brother, I feel, got to graduate and move on, and I stayed at the high school for 3 more years. So, you know, I was glad that I went back, but there were challenges with that too. But I came through that, and so I want to help people. I guess my point was that I have had a hard youth, and I want to help other young people through their hardships. And you know, it wasn't always easy, but I just turned 36.
Yeah.
Um, I can't imagine my life today as a 14-year-old closeted kid experiencing tragedy. So um, I'm just glad I made it, and I really want to be there for others that are in need.
Thank you, Maddie.
Um,
I know that you've gotten to share that story a bit. I think that's an important story to hear. That really, truly, as an event for the United States, was um, uh, that was that was the beginning of what you, like you said, has become almost commonplace, and wondering when the next kind of thing like that's going to happen again. Fortunately, I guess we've got other things to think about right now rather than be in school, let alone be angry at people at school. So we can't go right.
yeah. I would like to shout out my friend's documentary. So a lot of movies have been made and a lot of books have been written about Columbine, but there was a documentary it just came out I think a year ago. It's on Hulu, I think still. It's called We Are Columbine. And that's like our mantra. It was like the Columbine Rebels, and so our coach would always go like "We are," and the students would say Columbine. So my classmate and friend Laura Farber worked really hard on this documentary, and it features four of my classmates from our graduating class. And it's a really beautiful story, and so many stories like highlight, you know, the tragic events behind the two young boys that decided to do that. And this film really features like four of my classmates that are survivors, and it's like that's the beautiful part of her documentary making was it's the stories of the resilience of being here today and like getting through all that and where we are and how we move forward from here, you know. So just wanted to shout out
What's the
that
name of that one more time?
We Are Columbine.
Okay, guys, take a look at that. I'm gonna have a look at that myself too. We've got about 20 minutes before the feed cuts out, and I want to hit a couple more things because these are some incredible, difficult
Yeah.
stories, and want to make sure that we talk a little bit about what you do now to take care of yourself. You know, because you know, every day you could be getting that phone call, or you know, or something else happens in the community, or who knows, whatever. So, what do you do to take care of yourself?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And self-care, I think, looks different for a lot of people. I think it changes for me. I'm a pretty social person, but I also like it can be exhausting. It's kind of crazy. My mom is very extroverted, my dad is pretty introverted, and I always felt more of my mom's side of like, I'm so outgoing and fun and like let's have a great time. And now in more of my adulthood, I'm like, no wonder my dad is so chill. Like I'm getting to understand more of the downtime and the recharge. And I think the recharge is really important. So as much fun as I want to have and as many people I want to see, I think it's just I've learned more about like setting boundaries for myself and like not having to say yes to everything and commit to everything, even though like you want to do all the things and support all the people. To just really make sure that it's okay to say no to some things and have the downtime. For me, that's like RuPaul's Drag Race, or like movies with my husband, or going to Sunset. Coronavirus, I thought I would watch more TV and things, but I had the privilege of working remotely. So I thought I would have like more binge watching things, but when we got out of quarantine, because we did have to quarantine because of Kevin's travels,
We'll
which
talk
we can
about
talk
that.
about if you want to. But what the minute we could go to Sunset, it just like made it that much more um, appreciated that like this is a privilege and it can be taken away from you, and
Yeah.
so just getting time together on the beach, even if it's just like for a 30-minute sunset and going home. We've been making more meals together and that's been fun. Um, I've also had the privilege of having more time to exercise lately, so I listen to podcasts when I run. And that's good for my body, but it's also really good for my mind, to kind of think about my day and set intentions for myself. Um, so I don't know if that answers your
Do you have
question.
any
It's
particular
multiple outlet.
podcasts you would recommend? Any favorites
Ooh.
that you'd recommend right now?
I mean, well, because I mentioned RuPaul's Drag Race, there's a show called Race Chaser, and it's by Willem and Alaska, who are previous contestants on RuPaul's Drag Race. And they like go over all the episodes. It's very entertaining. But I mean, I listen to the New York Times, The Daily.
Hmm.
They've been covering a lot lately with Black Lives Matter. It's been very informative for me. I just listened to Code Switch by NPR.
Hmm.
Um, there is Las Culturistas is really good queer culture stuff. Bowen Yang is on SNL this year. He's the first like Asian American queer cast member. It's him and his best friend. They're two comedians. They're very entertaining and have
They
lots
come
of
as a
great
duo.
guests. Yes, they're a duo, and they always have like a guest. They're pretty
Cool.
awesome.
Cool.
Um, what podcast do you listen to?
Actually, one of the ones that I keep going back to is a free diving podcast. It's called Free Dive Cafe, and it started out as mostly talking about kind of training things and interviewing popular or famous free divers. But the guys really evolved into talking about more about how that applies. There's a blue mind state that's discussed now. That's kind of my part of my self care process is just generally getting in the ocean, or even at some point I can even sit down and just think about it, and that really, I mean, just in a moment, if I really get caught up in something and I take the time to take some breaths into my belly. I don't do yoga. I feel a little bit weird about that, but yeah. So that's part of my process there too. You mentioned Kevin
Yeah.
being away when we got into the quarantine time, or what a lot of people were calling quarantine, but it was really just self isolation. But you guys, you really had to go through it.
Yeah. People were under the stay-at-home order, so they were like staying at home, but they still had freedoms. Yeah, this is not so. We were talking about like my youth challenges, but like the biggest challenge of this year was like Kevin is Mr. Adventure, which I fully support. He decided to go on a river trip in the Grand Canyon, which is very hard to get. It's like a once in a lifetime opportunity to get a permit to go on the Grand Canyon. He went with a group of, I think it was like 12-ish people. It's 18 days. There's like no service. It's a river rafting trip. You use an outrigger, they give you gear. It's like full into the wilderness. Um, He was awesome because he did get a satellite phone and a texting device, but it was like a one update here and there, um, like one a day, and everything was pretty good. But he went on the trip just as things started to escalate, and we knew that it would probably be worse when he came back, but we didn't know like how quickly it would escalate. So when he, like about a week into his trip, was when Kauai had like two confirmed cases, and we learned that Tom Hanks got coronavirus. And then by the time they came out, like his trip was canceled. His flight didn't exist. Um, and there was a time in the middle where it was escalating, but I knew that they couldn't do anything. So I knew that I could contact him, but there was nothing that they could physically do because there is like a takeout date. It's not like I could go send in a helicopter and get them all out and come home. Like it's not that easy. But there was a point that it came to that I texted Kevin and I said, I'm so sorry to interrupt your fun, but like it's getting real and you need to get off the river. Like, if you could get off early,
Gosh.
that would be great because you don't have a flight home right now. And call me.
Oh
um,
no.
so, he didn't get that message for like 24 hours, and I'm trying to work with airlines and get him a different flight because his flight's gone. Long story short, many hours on the airlines, booking him a different flight disappearing. We were able to move his flight to a day early. He was able to get off with enough time to barely get to the airport, basically. And he made it home, but the day he came home was the day that the quarantine was instated. So 14 days. I could have isolated him in the house and been separate, but I know that that's not going to happen. And as a citizen, I wanted to do my part and take responsibility. So our friend Nikki was here too. She lives on Oahu, but she was on the trip. So we decided that they should both come here. She has some family here on Kauai. The three of us quarantined. I got all the groceries and supplies beforehand, and we took it seriously. We did not leave the property. We had some friends deliver us some supplies, which was so generous. But we made our home a fort for 14 days. At that point, I was just so happy to get him home. It was like a really stressful couple days trying to figure out coordination of his return. So that was pretty nuts. And so by the time the 14 days ended, there was still curfew, and you were only allowed on the beach to exercise. But we did. We like went to Sunset and we're like, we will exercise this beach just to be on it
Yep.
and swim. And I don't care if it's sunset, we'll swim all night. We'll be here forever. So that's pretty crazy. But we both also had the privilege, all of us had the privilege to work remotely, and still be employed and figure out some of those things and learn how to do our positions differently. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of crazy. And coronavirus, I think, is hard for everyone. I think no matter what, if you're on the Grand Canyon and you come out of a trip, you're going to have a little culture shock without coronavirus. And so by the time they came home and were able to, really process like the seriousness of all the trauma that's like the country is experiencing, um, it's been like a roller coaster, of emotions for us to see the hardship going around everywhere. We're lucky in this bubble to be safe right now in Kauai, but we're gonna have to buckle up, like,
Yeah.
and do our part as citizens to really not just like look out for ourselves, but look out for each other and take this seriously.
There's more change coming down the tracks, you guys, and let's just work together. We've got a different
Yeah.
way. Everybody's got a different way of dealing with things. If you don't believe me, then try going to a big wedding or a funeral and just see how different people handle things that are difficult.
Yeah.
This is like a global wedding funeral put together. Essentially, you're going to see the best and the worst behavior come out of people.
Yeah.
Try and love them anyway, or at least just stand there and listen. If you're listening, that doesn't really fuel anybody's fire. And in the worst case scenario, if you got somebody that's coming at you with things that you don't agree with, you can really just say, huh, that's an interesting perspective. I hadn't considered that. And there's really no way that they
Yeah.
can possibly get upset about that. So
I
whatever it
mean,
is.
dude, it's nuts. Yeah, if you really like, we were all kind of in lockdown, and then, Black Lives Matter movement is bringing all these people out, in crowds, and I proudly was out in a crowd holding a sign, I'm still gonna wear my mask, and I'm going to try to distance. I want to say hi to people, but I also, it's hard. Like, not everyone has the right answer, but we can all like keep trying. And even if someone gets close to somebody else, we can still be like aware of our surroundings and respect each other. I teach a lot about like consent and boundaries through the Y, and I'm learning a lot about that through coronavirus,
Me
and
too.
social distance. Can I just, or actually like, hey, nice to see you from afar, or, um, and this is my boundary, and people shouldn't assume each other's boundaries. And so I think that's the big challenge. And people have different boundaries, and people have different feelings about their boundaries, and they don't like other people's boundaries. So we all just need to be more compassionate and understanding of each other's, even if we don't agree. Like, that's your boundary, and I can respect that and
Yeah.
listen.
And
And I have to work
ask
on that.
somebody, say, what are you comfortable with? Is if it comes to a hand gesture or masks or whatever it is right now. There's nothing wrong with asking somebody what it is that they're comfortable with. That's a good way to handle things.
I've had some limited contact with a couple friends, and one of them I did call, and I was like, "Are we hugging? Like, if I see you, should I hug you, or are you not doing that?" And she was just like, "I wish everyone asked me that every day." I was like, "Oh, okay. I'm so happy to ask. Like, but I want to know, like, what you're comfortable with. Like, stuff can be awkward, and I don't want to offend anyone, and it could be too late sometimes. We're like, hey, and like, oh, don't touch me, and then you're like, oh, offended.
Yeah, yeah.
But I was like, yeah, I like want to know your comfort level before I see you so that we can plan this out. And that's awkward to ask too, but like better to do it in advance.
Just be awkward. It's okay. It's fine. Hey, we got just a few minutes left, so I want to ask the folks that are listening, if anybody tuned in at the beginning, or if maybe you know a bit about our guest, Matty Poppins, Mr. Matty Houck here. We started the show, and he had mentioned a few things. What was the inaugural event that he set up for Kawaii last year that has had to make some adjustments this year? If you can answer this question in the comments section there, the first person to answer what inaugural event did Matty Poppins help create for Kawaii last year? And if you put that answer in there, we'll send you some can gear. And while we're waiting for that event, there we go.
There's a clue.
Pete Martinez. All right. Thanks for tuning in. I know this person has been checking out a few of these conversations, so great to see you guys all being around. Thank you. While we've got a few more minutes left, I like to wrap it up by talking about goals, and obviously we're going to keep working on these events. With the Kauai Pride Parade, hopefully in October, and Nirvana Fest and a music festival. Somebody had asked earlier about events just for this month, small events. I had suggested this a few times in a couple of meetings. Why don't you guys just do a convoy? Like, there's ways to do that. That's you're gonna have to set some rules in place, but you start on one end of the island, go to the other end, and just make sure that there's not a gathering so much. Pretty much got to just keep it rolling. But that could be fun.
Yeah, it could be fun. I love that idea, and just like blast your own music. Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. If someone wants to take the lead on that, I've had the whole technology learning curve with all the digital platforms, which, you'd think would be super easy, but I'm learning a lot. But also on the small gathering note, I would like to mention that tomorrow is Juneteenth. The history of abolishing slavery in Texas, and people are really working towards making that a national holiday. And people are doing small gatherings throughout the island. So where, last week there was an event in Honolulu for Black Lives Matter, and the weekend before that was an event in Lahui. Tomorrow there's a flyer going around. You can follow Kawaii for BLM, Kawaii for Black Lives Matter. They're encouraging everyone to go out near where they are and hold signs for Juneteenth or Black Lives Matter, so that it's not one big gathering and it's more convenient for people in their areas. And we can say we did like an island-wide peaceful protest. That's or great. Like awareness campaign around Juneteenth. So from 4 to 5 on Friday, tomorrow, there will be some designated locations. I'll be at the Poipu Roundabout from 4 to 5 on tomorrow. Okay. There will be people at the Historic County Building in Lihue, and there will be people at Kapa'a Beach Park. We're also hoping people might go to Hofgard Park in Waimea across from Ishihara, and maybe the lawn in front of Hanalei Gourmet across from Chanyang Village. But yeah, there's still like things happening, and we can follow these events and, still bring awareness and visibility to important issues.
That's right. That's right. Maddie, thank you
Yeah.
so much. I'm so blessed that I get to know you on a personal level and have you as a friend in my life. Thank you for being on for a conversation and being real and live and direct with us. We love you, dude. What a great conversation. And
That's such an honor. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the invitation.
we're going to do more of these. I want to follow up with everybody that we've been speaking with because we're all continually going through changes, and it's going to be really great to check back in with you. Hear some more stories because you've got plenty of them, and then see what kind of adjustments you're continuing to make. So love you. Lots of blessings. That story that you told me, particularly obviously being a part of the Columbine tragedy and not being there has its own bag of emotions, I know, for you, but surviving that, you have, beyond a shadow of a doubt, more than purpose. You are a beautiful, bright light. Thank you for being a part of our community. You are meant to be here. You're meant to be doing all the things that you're doing. As crazy as the shit hits the fan for us, for whatever reason, things fall apart because something else is supposed to happen. And I really believe that with you. I've seen it in you and the things that you apply yourself to. So when we go through these changes, when we're not doing, when something happens for us that we're really looking forward to, consider the fact that maybe there's something else that's meant to be.
Totally. And maybe we don't know it yet, but I was listening to a previous conversation, and I think there was talk about, I mean, the message behind CAN. And I also just wanted to lastly share, like, my mom is such a important, I mean, person for me, but obviously. But she always taught me as a young person, when there's chaos and hardship or conflict, even between like work or person or this or that, she always brought it back to like, what can you control and what can't you control. What you have no control over, you have to let go. As like hard or frustrating as it is, you have to let it go. But what can you do and focus on that? So like, I can't change our federal government today, but I can like have conversations with my friends and harder conversations with like family or people where it might be difficult. But I can have those.
Yeah.
I can reach out to legislators and representatives and tell them how I feel because it's their job to listen. Like things within my realm of what I can do. And that's always just been like really helpful for me when it seems so overbearing. And it is sometimes, but like, yeah, sometimes you have to let something go. But what can I do today that's achievable, that can work towards something?
That's it.
So I
One
just
step at
always
a time.
carry that with me.
Thank you, Maddie. So good.
Yeah, love you.
If you're
I love
really
you, Seth.
getting
Thanks for
caught
having
up in
me.
something, just break it down to the simplest thing. You can control what you're thinking. You really can. You can stop and control your thoughts. Then you can control the way your thoughts come out of your mouth. And then you can control the way your thoughts and your mouth create action. Just simplify and then go. Love you. Thank you.
Love you. Let's hang soon.
All right. Aloha, everybody. Thank you for tuning in for this conversation with Matty Houck, Mr. Matty Poppins. If you want to find him on Instagram, check out CAN at spiritofcan.com, and we'll see you guys all again soon. Thanks for being around.
Thank you.